सहगवतु भुर्भुवः read these verses. प्रिंट कुछ ज़्यादा छोटा हो गया ना, फॉन्ट छोटा हो गया।
वस्तसता जीवे दुस्सलो असमाहितो एकहं जीवितं श्रेयो शिलावन्तस्य ध्यायिनो।
योचे वत्सशतं जीवे दुस्सीलो असमाहितो एकाहं जीवितं श्रेयो शीलवन्तस्य ध्यायिनो। जो मतलब जो वत्सशतं जीवे मतलब 100 वर्ष तक जीवे, ऐसा आदमी जो 100 वर्ष तक जिए, लेकिन दुस्सीलो असमाहितो तो शील उसके खराब है, बैड मोरालिटी, असमाहितो तो कोई मन पे कोई कंट्रोल नहीं है। एकम जीवितम सेयो, इन comparison to that, ekaham जीवितम सेयो, better is to live for just one day in one day. Silavantasya jhayino, one who is virtuous, who is following the morality and is meditating. So that is the verse which has been said to some robbers. You might have seen this story. The monks were meditating in the forest. I think that gives us the kind of hazards they experienced in living in forest. Some robbers came and they had to do some human sacrifice. That must have been quite prevalent these days, sacrificing people. So they wanted to select one of them. So there was a very young monk who said, "No, I will go with them." So the others said, "No, why should you go? You are young." He said, "No, Sariputta has told me." He knew that this is going to happen. So then they said, "Okay, if he has told you, then you go." And that young monk, though he was young, he was already fully awakened person. So when they started to kill him, they couldn't kill him because the sword would hit him and it would get break or turn down. So the robbers thought that he's some great man and we should not do so. They sought his forgiveness, and then he took them all to the Buddha, and then Buddha said this statement: it's better that you live a moral life and a life of following meditation, that even if you live for just one day, that will be better than rest of your life lived in the same manner.
Yucha vasa satam jive dupano asamahito ekaham jivitam seyo panyavantasa jhaino.
Same similar formulation. So who would live for 100 years without, now here it is saying Duppanno asamahi. Duppanno means he doesn't have good wisdom, he has a wrong knowledge, without wisdom and without a firm mind. Better is the life of somebody who is Panyavantasya jhaina, who is a meditator and has wisdom. So trying to give the mention about the importance of wisdom. And the story is again about some robbers. So one monk was meditating in the forest. Even he had attained enlightenment, and still when he was on the way to monastery, night became, and so he thought he'll sleep at the forest. On a big rock, he slept, and he sat down and was in deep meditation. So deep night, the robbers came and they didn't realize it was a person. They thought it was some on the rock, some part of a tree, and they put all their stolen goods around him. In the morning, when then they slept, and morning they realized this was a living person. So then they thought that he must be some ghost. So when they realized that he was just a monk, the robbers were impressed and then became converts and took them to Buddha. And then Buddha said this.
Yocha vasasatam jive kuchito ina viryo ekam jivitam seyo virya marhab
Arambhato dalham. Vidya arambhato dalham. Yocha vasasatam jive. Same meaning. Kusito hina viryo. Kusito was जो काम करने से lazy है. Hin means low, virya means energy. Is low energy, is not ready to work and is indolent. So better than that is the life of somebody virya arambhato dalam, who is a firm and has a lot of energy, he has a lot of energy and does work with a lot of energy. So it's much better to be full of energy and do work rather than being indolent and lazy and without energy. So this is about a monk who, in spite of his efforts, could not attain the awakening, and he thought it's tried enough, and so they say, I'll commit suicide. So when he was on the verge of committing suicide, he realized that I have been a monk and I have lived a good life for so long, so why should I? So he reflected on his life as a monk and he thinks he has been living a moral life. So that gave him joy, and that joy enabled him to meditate, and he became awakened immediately. So when other monks knew what happened, so they told Buddha, how can a person who is about to commit suicide become awakened? So then the Buddha says that it is possible, because it's not, time and space is not relevant, it is putting up energy and being mindful of situations. So last one I'll read for you. Yocho vasasatam jive apassam udayabbayam ekaham jivitam seyo vasasato udayabbayam. So here the characteristic mentioned is similar formulation. Apassam udayabbayam, without seeing the arising and passing away of phenomena. So he says a person who lives even for 100 years without seeing that is not desirable, and it's not better. Better than that would be a person who lives even for one day seeing the arising and passing away of the phenomena, nature of reality, and seeing the characteristic of impermanence. It's a long story. I think you recall from the discourses Goenkaji tells about the story of Patachara. So that whole story is given of a woman who was a very daughter of a rich person, and somehow she fell in love with the servant and went away, and then married him, and then had children, and then she wanted to go back at the time of children. The husband didn't allow. Second time again he didn't allow, but then she went away, and during this whole process of going, she lost her husband, she lost her both the sons, and she was very much in great anguish. And when she reached home, she found that her parents had also died because of a big storm that had come at that time. So she became deranged, and then, without her clothes and totally naked, she was running on the streets of Savatthi. And one day she happened to come across the discourse of Buddha, and there she saw that, suddenly realized that she was naked, and some person put over his shawl on that lady. So she came to be known as, she didn't even remember her name, a lady with a shawl or the Patachara, ऊपर से पत्थर पहना हुआ है. So then Buddha taught her that, she told the story to the Buddha and then taught her the Dhamma, and told her that if you count all the lives in which you have gone through, you must have lost thousands of relatives and gone through same suffering again and again. That probably was enough for her to realize that this is a part of the human realm, and so immediately came to peace. And then she became a nun, and the instance which she is mentioning, that she poured some water from a pot and it flowed for some distance and finished off. So that just that observation recalled to him and made her realize that everything is impermanent. Things are arising and passing. Water is falling, going ahead and falling down. And that insight of impermanence saw her through, and she became fully enlightened. So, seeing this, Buddha told her that yes, this is fairly true, that things are really impermanent, and that it is better to live even short time having grasped that impermanence characteristic. And so, having understood that, she became enlightened. So then this verse was spoken. You can see how quickly people get enlightened with this. एक एक्स्ट्रा है आपके पास, ये क्लियर, दिस इज क्लियर. So we'll study this Shula Rahula Vada Suptam. कहाँ तक पढ़ा था हमने?
मेन जो एकम में हो
फर्स्ट स्टार्ट ही किया था ना. So let me put that. So we had started from this. Initially it was introduction, taking to Rahula to the forest and then starting asking him questions. What do you think, is I permanent or impermanent? And then obviously the reply is quite obvious. And what is impermanent? Is it satisfactory or unsatisfactory? And the again reply is probably quite obvious. Then he says, if something is impermanent and unsatisfactory, is it subject to change? Viparinamadham kallum natam samanupasitam. Is it proper to view this, to perceive that as etang mam eswanam asmi eswanam? Perceive such a thing which is impermanent, to see that it is me or belongs to me, mine, and this what I am. She says no. And then this is about the I, then he talks about the form with which the I would interact. So, read it.
तंतु मन्नति
Manyasi.
रूप नित्या वा अनित्या वा.
So he asks Rahula, what do you think? Tam kim manyasi? तुम क्या मानते हो राहुल? रूप जो है नित्य है या अनित्य है? नित्या वा नित्या वा. रूप अनित्य है, नित्य है.
अनित्या वा.
अनित्य बनते. And rebel sir, it is impermanent.
Yam Pananicham.
Yam Pananicham, something which is anicca, which is impermanent. Dukkham, which is of Va. Tam Sukham Va. Is that of the nature of Dukkha or Sukha? Which means, is it satisfying or unsatisfying? Dukkham Bante, it is of the nature of sufferings, unsatisfactory.
Yam Pananicham Dukkham. Viparnava Brahman. Kallandutam.
Samanupasitam. Etamam. Eso Manasmi. Eso Me. So something which is of the nature of impermanent, something which is of the nature of suffering, and which is subject to constant change. Is it proper to regard such a thing as mine, myself, this what I am? The answer is no. So then having talked about the I, then having talked about the object, then the interaction of the external object, external form. This is
Tankim Manasi Rahula Chakku Vinyanam Nityam Va Nityam Va.
so the Chakku Vijnana means the I consciousness. That is which arises when I comes in interacts with the external world. So he is asking now about the result of interaction. Because we are interacting with the world through 6 senses, so one by one he will take each sense and ask him about that.
Yam Pananicham Dukkham Vatan.
Same argument is being repeated. So we had argument for the I, then argument for the form, then Chakku Vijnanam, argument for the I consciousness which arises based on the form and the I. And then again the same answers, that being impermanent, of the nature of suffering, this cannot be mine, this cannot be myself, this cannot be my what I truly am. Then further from Chakku Vijnanam, Chakku Sampasso. So remember there was Passa, because which is the contact of all the three. Kinnam Sangati Passa, we had studied that repeatedly in that one of the suttas. The association of all the three, I, object and the I consciousness, that is the contact which produces the subsequent effects. So he is then asking about Passa. Is that Nitya or Nitya? Again same answer, that also is impermanent, that also is of the nature of suffering. Then from Passa arise all the other phenomena. So then she is trying to put them all together. What is it? So we can read it. Samkim Mannasi Rahula Yamidam Chakku Samphassa Pachaya Upajyati Vedanagatam Sanyagatam Sankharagatam Vinyanagatam Tamapi Nityam Va Adityam Va. So now is all the consequences of I interacting with the form. What are the consequences? There is a scene, Chakku Vijnana arises. Then there is a contact of all the three processes, and that results sequentially into Chakku Samphassa Pachaya Upajjanti, means things which are dependent on Chakku Samphassa, or the contact of the eye at the eye sense space. The things which arise, that is Vedanagatam, that is which is of the nature of feeling which arises based on them. Then Sanyagatam, perception which arises. Then Sankharagatam, the reaction which arises, or the mental fabrication. And Vinyanagatam, and the consciousness. So all these which arise based on that, are these permanent or impermanent? The answer is again obvious, impermanent, stressful, nature of the unsatisfactory nature, and therefore not me, not mine. So one sense door and its interaction with the world is investigated. And same logic is applied now to other sense doors. So Sotam, that's what I have highlighted. Sotam, Bhanan, then Jivva, Kayo, Mano. So all the 5 sense doors. Then about the mind sense doors, where thoughts arise, ideas arise. So then the for sake of completeness, all the discussions of Mano are given. Just as for I, Rupa is the object, for Mano, Dhamma is the object, which is mental contents which arise. Then Mano Vinyanam, then Mano Samphasso, then Yamidam Mano Sampassa Pachaya Upajjati Vedanagatam Sanyagatam Sankharagatam Vijnanagatam. So Vedana and Sankhara and the consciousness which arises based on the Phassa, It's sanya which arises, that again is of the same characteristic of impermanence. So none of them can be regarded as myself. So what does it mean now? That if none of them is myself, then what is left? Nothing is left, isn't it? So this is how the discussion is taken round to the understanding of that there is nothing which you can say is really my true self. So of course he points out that this is of course theoretical formulation. What is the result of this theoretical formulation is given in the next passage, 419. So we can read that. 419.
कसम राहुला सुतवा अरिया सावको चक्कु मिन
Nibindati. That other within the bracket you can leave those actually.
Okay.
Nibindati. Bracket wala jo hai, that is an alternative.
निबिंदति रूपेषु निबिंदति चक्कु विनने निबिंदति चक्कु संफसे निबिंदति यमिदं चक्कु संफसा पचया उपजति वेदनागतम सनागतम
Sanyagatam.
संखारागतम विज्ञानम गतम तस्मिन्ति निबिंदति.
So what is he saying? That somebody who sees things in this manner, repeatedly, again and again, he understands that this is not me, this is not me, this is not me, this is not mine, this is not myself. Then he gets disenchanted with the whole apparatus, because the body-mind complex and the world around, so with everything, you get disenchanted, because see, they are not really my true self, and they are not of the nature of satisfying nature. They are not of something which can give you abiding satisfaction or lasting satisfaction. So when one really realizes it, seeing this, Rahula, the noble instructed disciple of the noble ones, gets disenchanted with the eye. So disenchanted with the whole sensory apparatus, body-mind complex, so to say, and everything which arises based on that interaction. That is the feelings which arise, the perceptions which arise, the reactions which arise, and the consciousness which keeps on arising again and again. So he gets disenchanted. Disenchanted, weary, थक जाता है ना आदमी. किसी चीज़ को देखा इसका कोई महत्व नहीं है, ये तो परेशानी करती है. So why to get engaged in it? Normally what happens, we are not disenchanted with the world, we are enchanted with the world. We go out and things pull us. This attracts or repels. It can pull either way. Some things attract us, some things repel us. So we get kind of bond with them. So when one sees through their real nature, then that bondage is not there. We lose interest in them. We don't see that they are the things which will give us happiness or which will give us abiding satisfaction.
Is it natural disenchantment that comes with age? Because sometimes you've been there, done that.
Yeah. So that is the whole idea of practice, is that. That one could be disenchanted, or let me use this word, between disenchantment and helplessness. There is a difference. Usually with age arises helplessness. So मेरे उसका नहीं है, तो मेरी टांग में बहुत दर्द होती है. So I can't go about and run around as I used to do. आँखों से ठीक से दिखता नहीं है, ज़्यादा पढ़ने का मन नहीं करता. So that is a more of a kind of feeling of inability to do things, and अब मैं शुगर हो गया तो मिठाई खा नहीं सकता, चलो एक्सेप्ट कर लो. But that is a resignation. So between resignation and disenchantment there is a subtle difference. Disenchantment means we have a knowledge, इसमें कुछ नहीं. So one doesn't need to become old to get disenchanted. You can get disenchanted with a wisdom, with an understanding of the nature of reality. For example, we have all got disenchanted with toys, isn't it? Our Because small children are not going to listen. You have surely got disenchanted with them. Why? Your reason avoid ठीक है यार, बहुत हो गया. So that kind of an understanding that okay, but for a child that is everything. For a child the doll is everything. So that is the understanding. Out of understanding, this no longer, that doll no longer enchants. It may be as beautiful as it was earlier. It doesn't give us that pull. It doesn't have the pull to attract us or pull to repel us, push to repel us. So that is the really disenchantment.
So this like for these material disenchantments that happen progressively with life, like dolls and toys, it happens that you get enchanted with more things, and you leave this. So you keep your enchantment intact. You just change the things that you are enchanted with. So that progress will naturally happen. But I don't somehow feel that disenchantment with dolls has come through wisdom. It just came through because everybody was disenchanted with dolls. So let me also look for some newer things.
I've seen grown-up women keeping teddy bear with them. I've seen it. So, well, of course, it is probably peer effect also, and you're right. You put up an higher one.
Right.
You take from a lower one, you go to a higher thing which attracts you more. So, in some sense, our discussion here is also a result of we are think that this is giving us more happiness than that. But if you go in that direction, then eventually you come to a stage where you realize that the sensory domain is not really going to give us great pleasure. And not only sensory domain, our whole body-mind complex interactions. So you move beyond body to the Vedana, the feelings which arise, then much bigger and much greater is perceptions which arise. So if you can disenchanted with perceptions, then of course you will be substantially burden is laid down because perceptional attachment is very strong.
That's what I wanted to ask. Disenchantment with feeling or with perceptions can be practiced in meditation, like when we sit and we see that pleasant feeling is arising because of something, or unpleasant feeling is arising, or in terms of perceptions or attributes like greed is arising or laziness is arising. So that is much more easier to see if one is aware, and then can possibly work to say that this is temporary or try to distance itself. But how do we say that we disenchant with I or with the forms or with the contact? That in terms of practicing,
This is in terms of practicing your day-to-day life actually. Even of course for a monk who is full-time devoted to that, then there is no issue. But for us also, we do interact with the world outside continuously. And we can decipher that we are getting pulled or pushed by the things in the world outside.
but then the pulled and push are again like
the seeing,
feeling and
seeing is you're walking, you're talking, you're seeing things. You can, if one is mindful, one can see this I like, this I don't like. You can see that, and be aware of the feeling, because feeling means feeling of liking and disliking.
But that doesn't say. As soon as we say the feeling of liking or disliking or perceptions we are making, so with awareness we try to be more sensitive towards them. But if we just say that just for the eye as an object,
Eye is basically the whole body, mind, all the various organs of the body. Something for usually a person is not kind of enchanted with the eye as an object, isn't it? It's only because it is performing a function that, isn't it? Unless you are a film actor and you want to say that my eyes are so beautiful. Otherwise, most people don't get too much carried away with them, isn't it? But the function they perform is very powerful. Eyes or ears or various organs, especially eyes. function they perform is so powerful that our dependence on them is profound.
But sir, does it really mean that before feeling arises or before perception arises, we are still seeing? First we are seeing an external object and then there is a contact.
Asya Pachaya Vedana, that is
Yeah.
absolutely-
Before,
You studied that, no?
Yeah.
But it's just much part.
yeah. So I'm saying that before feeling or perceptions arise, there is this contact, and then before contact, one is actually seeing. So in these also, the monks can possibly get disenchanted with.
No, see, what is the disenchantment? It is the sensory apparatus and this world outside. That, normally, from a normal view, when we see something, we feel good about it. When we, implicitly assume that will give us happiness. Implicit. It's not we don't think about it in a kind of think कि हाँ इससे मुझे बहुत खुशी मिलने वाली है. But it's implicit. It's kind of automatic, Automatically something we like and we get pleased, and something we dislike we get displeased. And then slowly, if we are not very mindful, then that habit pattern gets strengthened and strengthened. So when you are mindful and we develop that wisdom and contemplate in this manner, then we move the Dhamma Chakra and we slowly disentangle. So this has to be done in our day-to-day life actually. For householders, we may be meditating 2 hours morning, 1 hour evening, 2 hours और बाकी तो घंटे जी आँख खोल के रहेंगे तभी देखेंगे ना चीज़ों को. आँख बंद करके तो देखते ही नहीं. So when we are walking and seeing things, you can see if you are going on a morning walk, right? Also, it's a phenomenal thing to see that how the mind gets pulled. किसी ने कुछ कपड़े पहने हैं, किसी ने कैसा पहना है, किसी कुछ, and you get pulled and pushed and pulled. किसी को देख के अच्छा लगे, किसी को देख के बुरा लगे, किसी को देख के कोई विचार जाएगा, किसी को देख के कुछ विचार जाएगा. So if you are mindful, you can see also. And these things keep on kind of, stimuli keep on coming, and the mind keeps on reacting because of the past conditions.
That's another thing. Once we come to the reaction stage, with good mindfulness, it is very easy to catch. If you are mindful, you will be able to catch the reactions of the mind, the feelings it's generating, the perception. But when we say, before feelings,
that would be more difficult.
it will be very difficult. At least not at the beginning.
Stopping at feeling is comparatively easier.
Yeah.
That the feeling has arisen, and if one has practiced or not, then you see impermanent.
Yes.
So instead of allowing the mind to react to a feeling and causing it pleasant or unpleasant, you understand it is impermanent. So then the effect of that feeling is not strong on us. So you stop the reaction process. Or if the reaction has happened, then you become aware of reaction has happened. You don't take that also personally. Okay. This is the way things happen. Doesn't matter. So if we take that personally, reaction हो गया, बहुत गड़बड़ हो गई, then we are caught. Then we are really caught.
But sir, then in advanced stages.
So as you meditate in this manner, you get tired, no?
Yeah.
क्या फालतू हर प्रतिक्षण पे किसी पे इस पे भी ये कूड़ा पड़ा उस पर रिएक्ट कर रहा है, यहाँ पे फूल पड़ा उस पर रिएक्ट पड़ा, वही फूल कल यहाँ पड़ा होगा तो कुछ और तरह रिएक्ट करेगा. And you begin to feel that our mind is really not something which you cannot really be very, it's not something dependable. The phenomenal world is not very dependable, and you can't really look for lasting satisfaction there. So this is the process of disenchantment. It's not the process of repulsion. It's not the process of aversion, because there is a very thin line between disenchantment and aversion. If we develop aversion, then we are caught in the direction by other direct means. एक तरीका संसार को पकड़ने का है कि वो अनचाहे, जैसे मॉल में जाओ तो आपको खींच लेता है अपनी तरफ से, पुल कर लेता है. आप एक कूड़ेदान में जाओ तो आपको पुश करता है. Both are methods of holding it us, bonding us to the world. So we have to see disenchantment. ऐसा भी होता है, वैसा भी होता है. Not big deal. We're not really going to get abiding satisfaction. So that is a wisdom part, that is the insight which is developed by repeated reflection. So in our day-to-day life, if we do that kind of reflection, then this insight can be more and more strengthened, more and more strengthened.
And possibly, sir, after like doing meditation, or possibly for monks who meditate, they will be able to come to the stage where that they possibly don't react,
Yeah.
seeing
Okay.
feelings, and
Yeah.
that's where we can say that they are able to cut before the
Yeah,
feeling.
that is, for that the important thing, as far as I understand, is the perceptual changes. Perceptual changes in the light of wisdom. At the moment our perception tells this is good, this is bad, this is what it should be, this is what it should not be. Those shoulds are there and we don't see them things in their true nature. So if our sanya becomes anitya sanya, for example, our perception is so strong that it is clear, anything we feel and we know it is impermanent. So then the possibility of getting into reaction will not arise. So the perception is of a very prominent importance, great importance. So that perceptual change will happen by investigation of the nature of reality, and then putting it into practice. Say one simple perceptual change is it is impermanent. Another simple perceptual change will be is it does not belong to me. Happening, spontaneous things are happening. It's a process, not a fixed thing. So these perceptual changes, if they become, then you move in the direction of stopping the reaction much earlier than this. Because the perception is what is really making us like things and not like things.
Sir, I have one related question. So, as you just mentioned that if we see something good, then possibly our tendency is to craving to arise. And if we don't like something, then our tendency becomes towards aversion. So, then this path of meditation is to see those craving and aversions and possibly see them as they are. And one part of craving also is like when we like something or when we are getting pleasant feelings. So this pleasant feelings or this happiness because of some sense pleasure or something else. And then when we read the dependent origination, we say that joy will arise in him, rapture will arise in him. There are different stages in the dependent origination. What is the differentiation between these two?
See, the pleasant feeling is not is not something to be run away from. You don't need to create a aversion towards pleasant feeling कि हमको पकड़ लेगी. That will be again falling in this trap. So when situations arise, that's why there's that statement in Satipatthana. Sukham Vedanam Vedyami Pajana. So when he has a pleasant feeling, he knows it is a pleasant feeling. Knows.
Yeah.
And he knows it is just a feeling. Atti Vedanati. Just a feeling, which means he understands and nikal jayega. Don't take it too personally. It has arisen because of condition, it will soon pass away. So when that understanding is there, then the feeling will not capture us. Normally, a person tries to chase after pleasant feeling. We are chasing pleasant feelings. Now, a person who has developed wisdom, who has understood things properly, he does not chase pleasant feeling, but if pleasant feelings arise, it's fine. And he knows from his own meditative experience that when there is rapture, then the mind is happy, then concentration can be developed. And when concentration is developed, then only he will be able to see the things as they really are. If the mind is constantly fluttering, so कैसे देख पाएंगे? So to develop that perception of impermanence, perception of anatta, perception of danger, there is one adinava sangya, means he sees that this world is, in some sense, a dangerous thing, or it can attract him. So he looks at it in that manner. So the changes in the perception take place with maturity of the understanding. So as the understanding matures, then perceptual change will take place.
But what is that joy and rapture?
It is a meditative perception. When you, for example, do approach the jhana stages, you get into those joys. Or if you were doing meditation, you might have experienced it. Some days when you are doing meditation calmly, quietly, the mind becomes very, very peaceful, and the good feelings arise automatically. So you have a feeling of, you have the whole body open up, and you're feeling everything, and there's good vibrations all over the body, pleasant vibrations all over the body. And you understand they are impermanent, you don't get carried away, you don't get excited by them. So usually one gets excited, then matter ends there. You don't get excited, you see they are impermanent, and there is a pleasant abiding. The person is sitting quietly, seeing things, and then the pleasant abiding leads to concentration. Joy arises, happiness arises, and then the mind is not going to wander here and there. It's not going to seek joy elsewhere. Because this is much more prominent than that. So then concentration becomes strong. So for concentration, it's very important that the mind be peaceful, mind be happy. Because then only it will happen.
In practical disenchantment phase, what sometimes happens is that, for example, we used to go to malls for shopping and just for something that we can, and some lot of times I generally would try to say no, like to say you don't. You're becoming disenchanted / whatever. So, and then that there is a friction. क्यों नहीं जाना? चलते हैं.
No, you should go and increase your disenchantment. Should go.
So
घर में
the complaint is that you're doing all of this, that is making you do.
घर में friction हो जाता है. Why not? Cheated as a examination, it's not. What is there? You should, because you are still householder and you have duties and responsibilities and children are there, they want to go, they want you to go, okay, go. Why should you, disenchantment should not lead to aversion. Aversion is not thin line, and very thin. Go there and see whether you get attracted by it. Test. So that's fine. So there's no need. We know there's near enemies जो होते हैं ना वो दिक्कत कर देते हैं. So you should be careful. Disenchantment should lead to dispassion. Next वही लिखा है. Nibindam. So first that was with everything he gets disenchanted. Nibindam virajjati. So with the growing, as they get disenchanted, and this disenchantment, through disenchantment he becomes dispassionate. And, yeah, and viraga vimuchyati. Virajjati मतलब विराग से ना, राग नहीं रहा उसमें. Viraga vimuchyati, and if he is dispassionate, then he becomes free. Because this bondage is through raga, strong bondage is because of that. So, when he is dispassionate, it does not mean that he will run away from things. So, this is one of the stories I had read about Ajahn Sumedho. He is mentioned, or some other monk of their tradition mentioned, that with great difficulty he took leave of Ajahn Chah, said, I am going to that island, and solitary island, and I will meditate. He said, fine, go. So, two of them went. They said, वहाँ जाएंगे, नदी से पार किया, वहाँ जाके साफ सूफ कर रहे होंगे, बैठा होंगे. अभी we were just about to sit down for meditation, we found another boat is coming here. Okay, कौन आ गया? and found villagers coming there. क्या हुआ भाई? वो अजान चाहे रास्ते told us कि हमारे यहाँ शादी है, तो आप हमारे यहाँ शादी करवा दीजिए.
चाली बेचा.
क्या कि उनको ले जाओ. So you can imagine the kind of anger which arose. So he says कि you're fuming and fretting. उसे और कोई नहीं मिला था. Because they must be having some rituals and monks कुछ करते हो. So then क्या करते हैं? चले गए उनके साथ है. Cursing throughout the night और वहाँ पर जोर जोर से कोई गाने बज रहे थे. ये हो रहा था. क्या? हाँ भूल गए. And then suddenly I realized गाना ही तो परेशान क्यों हो रहा हूँ. And this doesn't seem to be very offensive song. So then he quietened down, and by morning he was fine. I said, probably then he realized कि क्यों भेजा मुझे. For my attachment to solitude, he wanted to take me out, get out of that attachment to solitude. So we have to see these things in a proper perspective. Because we can get attached to so many things.
Solitude also, yeah.
So that's the end of the sutta, I think. Nibindam virajyati, viraga vimuchyati, vimuttasmin vimuttam iti jnanam hoti. So when he is liberated, then this jnanam, this knowledge arises in him that I am liberated, there is a liberation is happening, that I am free, I am free from all bondage. And then this thought arises, khina jati, usitam brahmacharyam, katam karniyam, naparam, itthatati vajanati. So khina jati means the jati birth is finished, no more rebirth. Usitam brahmacharya, usita means completed. Yes, that I have completed all the holy life has been lived, whatever had to be done. Brahmacharya here means the holy life had to be fulfilled. खत्म करनी है मतलब कृत्य हो गया, जो मुझे करना था वो कर लिया और कुछ करने को लायक नहीं था. न परम इत्थहताय भजानाति, न परम इत्थहताय फॉर माई देयर इज नथिंग फर्दर, इससे आगे कुछ नहीं है इस संसार में मेरे लिए करने के योग्य. इदम वोच भगवा अत्तमनो आयस्मा राहुलो भगवतो भासितम अभिनंदन. दिस इज स्टैंडर्ड फ्रेज ऑफ us. This is what the enlightened one, blessed one said. Attamano, with a joyous mind, Ayasma Rahulo, Venerable Rahula, Bhagavato Bhasitum Abhinandan. So he expressed his delight at the words of the blessed one. Imasmin Chapana Vyakaranasmin Bhannamane Ayasmato Rahulasya Anupadaya Asavehi Chittam Vimucchis. Imasmin Chapana Vyakaranasmin means while this explanation was going to be given, this explanation was being given, Bhannamane was being spoken or being expounded. Ayasmato Rahulasya Anupadaya Asavehi Chittam Vimucchi. So Venerable Rahulasya Anupadaya means because of lack of attachment, with giving up of all attachment. Asavehi Chittam Vimucchi. So all the defilements were removed, were separated from his mind. Because he gave complete disenchantment, the complete dispassion. So all the asavas fell down. They were removed from the mind and therefore he became enlightened. Then what happened to those devatas who were going along with them? Tasancha anekam devatas sahasranam. Those many thousands of devatas who were there. Virajam vimatalam vitamalam dhammachakhum utpada. So there's eye of the Dhamma, which is standard expression for Virajam vitamalam. They were purified, their perception was purified. The eye of the Dhamma arose, and what did they understand? Yam kinchi samudaya dhammam sabbam tam nirodha dhammam. So they got really grasped this fact, that they got really understood this fact in the depth, that whatever arises, all that is subject to cessation. And so with that, which means they also had the dip into the Dhamma. Shula Rahula Vadasittam Nityatam. So this is the shorter discourse to Rahula. So we can see how We can see the similarity with Anatta Lakkhana and dissimilarity also, because there it was not through the senses, 6 senses that is normally in most other discourses, as is given in the notes, is mentioned in the framework is that of 5 aggregates or 6 senses separately. Here it is a mixture of all of them, in both put together. Through 6 senses, 5 aggregates are involved. So you can see that the Buddha used any of the means whichever he found suitable for a particular person. There is no fixed structure that this exactly has to be followed for all the kind of discussions. So we finish this. In the notes, I think it is mentioned there by that Thanisaro Bhikkhu that this is one point where this sutta deviates from that framework. So it focuses on all the aggregates and also on the senses simultaneously. Good. So any issue of discussion on this?
Anattalakka Sutra में उसमें the main point is what is not self. Is it okay to keep that in the as a question in mind, and then whenever your awareness arises, try to question: is this me? Is this mine? So is this skillful, or it will lead to more analytical things?
See, what I have found is that occasions when whenever the notion of self begins to arise, just be more cognizant of it. Now it can arise in a very subtle ways, very subtle ways. Once you become cognizant, so many times you start laughing at yourself. Kya kar raha hai? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And you immediately become aware, basically because it's trying to put up a good face, trying to see that people should not misunderstand me, trying to see that it should not spoil my image. That's one thing. That needs mind, being alert and attentive towards whatever happens. Whenever there is a upsetting of the mind, and you have, for example, the First Noble Truth says that whenever there is an experience of dissatisfaction, we actually experience it. So if possible, if the situation permits, to sit quietly and experience that this is what is suffering is. And at that moment you can also ask, use Dhamma Vichaya. Those are the times when Dhamma Vichaya can be used. Who is suffering? And then let that question sink. Nobody is suffering. It is actually a clash of perception or a clash of feelings which I am taking personally. These feelings are arising and passing away. There is a pain. So you can see that there is no person who is suffering. And that acts as a kind of catalyst in finishing the suffering also. When there is a, so you are doing any intentional action and there is a notion, मैं तो कर रहा हूँ, and you can question, why am I doing this action? Say you go in the morning walk, मैं तो चल रहा हूँ, and if you reflect deeply, कौन चल रहा है? शरीर चल रहा है, इनसे क्यों चल रहा है? तो मैंने चलाया इसको, देखते हैं किसने चलाया, investigate further. Why it is moving? Because there was an intention to move. Why did the intention to move arise? Because there is a perception that walking is good for health. And why is good health? Why do I want good health? Because I know this, otherwise I will get suffer. So you can trace this all to the fact that this is basically a natural urge of the mechanism of the organism. Oh, it's suffering. So in that sense, you can see there is no person as such involved in taking the decision. Because we normally, actually, when we act, then there is a big issue. Acting, whenever we act, we are thinking, मैं ही तो कर रहा हूँ. तो उसको तोड़ना काफ़ी मुश्किल है. So whenever you have the luxury of time available, जो मॉर्निंग वॉक में तो आराम से हो सकती है, लग्जरी हो सकती है. So whenever you have, you investigate and you can break it. That is actually conditioned phenomena. इन conditions के कारण ये हो रहा है. And I am taking it personally कि मैं कर रहा हूँ. And if you go to the ultimate causes, if you have that, eventually you will find that every time it is life force which is working. It is nothing else. I don't have the ability to make the body walk. Let me try. I am alive, so that's it. So there is a life force which is operating and which is really responsible for all the actions which are happening. If you take, you take there's a philosophical thought of instrumental cause and the ultimate cause. So ultimate cause of every action is ultimately the life force, that we are alive. Instrumental cause could be the body, could be the mind, could be tongue, you're speaking or doing something like that. So periodically one can investigate that way and then kind of loosen this stranglehold. This is such a stranglehold of I, notion of I, that it needs to be repeatedly, whenever it becomes dominant. You are sitting and discussing, arguing, and suddenly you realize I'm trying to be dominant. So then you can investigate, and that will bring down the dominance, and then things will be seen objectively. Because the moment I arises, objectivity gets lost. I arises, then you have to defend your position or a point of view or something or the other. So we can investigate these things. We can actually see this. So if suppose we have had a meeting and we have a strong argument and we come out and IIT में तो ऐसा होता ही रहता था continuously हमारे यहाँ. So then you realize कि why did I kind of get into that situation? Even though I now realize that my point of view was wrong, it was not worth stressing so much, but at that time I could not see. So once you do a post-mortem and realize, the next time the possibility of seeing through is improved. So in this manner one can see how our life, we get caught by our perceptions or the feelings. So you hurt yourself, चोट लग गई, मीटिंग में बैठे हो, तो दर्द हो रहा है वहाँ पे, उस दर्द के कारण मन बेचैन हो रहा है और उस बेचैनी के कारण आपको मीटिंग में कुछ अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, आप उल्टा सीधा बोल गए, कुछ कर गए. So then you later on, if you are not mindful, then we'll try to find a justification for it. नहीं इसने ऐसा किया ऐसे. But internally we know यार मेरा मूड खराब था, तो पाँव में चोट लगी थी, दर्द हो रही थी, I couldn't see it properly, so the mind was upset. So we can then see that this whole organism is very strongly governed by conditions. Compounded. That's what is meant by sankhara. का एक meaning भी है ना, things which are compounded. Aniccavat sankhara means anything which is compounded is impermanent. So there's nothing which is single. There's no single cause and single effect. Multiple causes, multiple effects.
So found that many times these reflections are very useful, but recently what happened, maybe it is something like same with, I started to feel sad for no reason at all. I said, okay, let me see, there must be something very deep that is causing this. Maybe I'm upset about something that recently happened, or I couldn't find anything. Then I said left it, but it continued for a few days, and because the trouble of the suffering that I'm sad, and the fact that I'm again seeing it that I'm sad, I'm trying to find a reason, I could not find a reason at all. So that kind of puzzled me, and then I left it that maybe I cannot see it because it may be too deep, so just leave it there. But that was very puzzling. I could not see any reason. Everything was fine at home, office, everything was.
Don't see a reason. experience that sadness then. Experience that sadness in the body and mind. That is it. And try to find out whose side rather than why I was.
But as you said, when you try to see the reasons, you can generally find the reasons.
Sometimes you can find, sometimes things, things which have arisen because of the past sankhara, deep-rooted sankhara, sometimes can give a kick and create a feeling which you don't know really. Maybe some past life sankharas also keep on sprouting, keep producing their fruit. So we can't really figure out everything.
There should be some way to recognize it, because anything that
then you have to sit and meditate very deeply. If you have very strong meditation and strong concentration, you can recognize. Get some intimation, and then sometimes you may recall some things. Sometimes it may happen like that. It's in meditation, many times you get into kind of, if you do deep meditation, you get into kind of visuals which bother you again and again and again. कोई thought होता है बार बार आता रहता है, because of the strong impression it has produced, something might have happened. So you may not be able to figure it out. So then we should accept it. So you see the sadness all over the body, it's producing effect on sensations, on the mind, state of the mind. So, and then you sad, it's just a state of the mind which is arisen. And investigation, analytical should be done only up to the point, not excessive. Very limited. If you can't immediately get it, do it. Otherwise, then, in fact, that will become an additional cause of concern. Because you are not able to find a reason, then that becomes a cause of concern, and that holds on to the aversion or the sadness strong. Because all of us have that feeling that we should be able to find that inner feeling is there. मुझे हो रहा, मुझे नहीं पता चलता. What is this going? See, it's kind of belittled. It wants to actually break our ego, but we're not willing to do it.
So maybe that's why it was happening, because as I said, I had this belief कि कुछ ढूंढेंगे तो मिल ही जाएगा.
So many times it doesn't happen. So many times in deep meditation you experience things which you have never seen. I remember, just to give an example, that many years ago I used to meditate. Whenever I would go for a course, I would sit and meditate, and after 7th, 8th or 10th day or something like that, a feeling would particularly arise in me. I somehow had the problem of excessive visualization happening automatically. Observing and visualization in both places. I would see some things and events and some people and all kinds of things. I would see, I am sitting praying somewhere on like this, and somebody comes and cuts my head. डर ऐसा लगता है क्या ये होने वाला है कि हुआ. I thought, okay, it's all right. Once तो कैंप खत्म हुआ, भूल गए, finished, nothing happened. फिर गए अगले कुछ महीने बाद गए, then I talked to Goenka. He said maybe it might have happened during past life. Just don't press the inquiry too much. So just give up. Okay, maybe might have happened. एक feeling रहती है ना, how did I can't find out? I should be able to find out. खासतौर पर intellectuals में ये बड़ा वो रहता है ना, that I should be able to figure it out. I should be able to figure it out. मुझे ही कुछ हो रहा है और मुझे ही नहीं पता चल रहा है. So then the moment I gave up, it matter ended. But it didn't have next course. It didn't arise. Because I just stopped chasing it. So you can, while investigation is helpful, it is in the light of it. Good, so I'll get some tea prepared for you. So कोई questions तो नहीं है ना, पूछ लीजिए, then we'll make some tea and have an informal discussion.
Disenchantment of perception is key to develop in daily life. how do you measure progress along the way?
You see, I think the key thing should be reduction in episodes of suffering. Everything else is secondary. So if we find that, of course, this notion of progress should be seen with caution, of course, in the sense that, of course, over a long period of time one should see, because we are learning, so we should see कि भाई ऐसा तो नहीं है कि 2 साल ध्यान करके मेरा मन और बेकार ही हो गया और परेशान हो गया. That to that extent we should see, but not do it on a every moment to moment basis. Then we will be in trouble. And eventually this whole notion of progress has to be given up, really. But in this, since we are still, all of us are trying to figure out our way, so we should try to see, is the world, I remember in a school we had a poem, I don't know whether it was in Newton, of Wordsworth, titled "The World is Too Much with Us." So that phrase is very powerful. Is the world too much with us, or we take the world for what it is? So we can measure it, see it, how much things are really binding us. And as we discussed, disenchantment should not mean aversion. That's very important. So we should not mistake disenchantment for aversion. It means not enchanting. We should not get enchanted by the world. So to that extent, and because it does not mean that the world will not cause pleasant feeling, pleasant things will not cause pleasant feeling. It means we see pleasant feeling for what they are. They arise and pass away, they are impermanent, and therefore we don't chase them and want to hold on to them. And neither do we run away from them. So the more we abide in equanimity, I think that is the best marker, if you may use that word, that we are following the right path.
So, Arpan says, if all is perception, how should one view values in society? For example, respect for elders, rights for women, children, etc. If one starts viewing these through lens of perceptions, there can be argument that it is not my perception that women should have rights. What happens in such situations?
Yeah, it's a very, very important question. You see, the fact remains that at this moment, it is the perception of Indian society about women which is responsible for what is happening. The way we look at women, the way we expect that women should be confined to house and she should look after a house and should not go out. That is a perception, basically. And that perception is being challenged, isn't it? So we are forced to re-evaluate all that perception. That is at the level of society, at the level of day-to-day living, isn't it? The perception about women not getting out of the home, if we investigate the reason was lack of security in the past. Because we lived for 1,000 years under a foreign rule or a rule of people who treated us not fairly, especially the women. So there was a perception built that अच्छा है वो औरतें घर पे ही रहे. So we need not therefore take it as something which is sacrosanct. Once we realize the limitation of my perception, then the possibility of changeover takes place. Then wisdom comes into the picture. You see, perceptions have to be imbued with wisdom. So the perception should change in accordance with wisdom, but they change more in accordance with the societal norms also, because society is in a situation, if for example the whole of our land was surrounded by radioactive material, there was a leakage, then we'll tell people अगले 10 साल तक घर से बाहर नहीं निकलना, सब कुछ अपने आप दिया जाएगा भैया, कुछ कोई तरीका किया जाएगा, because it's dangerous. So the perceptions became of that kind. So the perception became women should not dress in a particular way, they should dress in keep the body closed, because there was a perception that makes them vulnerable, because the societal norm. But of course, from the wisdom perspective, we have the fact that women were monks, they lived in forests at the time of the Buddha. And even then, if you see, in the beginning of the monastic order for women used to live in forests. Later on they realized that they were getting molested there. So then the rule was made that women should not live in forests, they should live in monasteries. So that was a regulation made by compassion, made with kindness, because of those reasons. Now if the people today demand a change, that should also be seen with the same light of wisdom. Because there is no difference between women and men from any perspective. So the perceptions change with change in the society. And they have to be kind of changed in accordance with wisdom, rather than in accordance with our preconditionings. Today I think in India probably we have for 1,000 years this perception, so it has become a part of our tradition of India. That women should behave in this particular manner, dress in this particular manner, eat in this particular manner. And there's images have been built of Pativrata, Striti and Mata, and this kind of images have been built. They have their values, but then if people are challenging it, we need to see it in that light of, in the basic light of loving kindness, in the basic light of compassion. And they force us to change the society. So we cannot say that you have your perception, I have my perception, and if it affects the third person. As long as it does not affect, that's fine, no problem. If my perception affects the freedom of other, then it is questionable. If I say that women should dress in a particular way, and when I am going out, I should not see any woman dressed in a different way, then I am affecting their freedom. So we should see it in the light of that. Everybody is equal and everybody should have the rights of the same kind.
But the question is perhaps a little different. Let's take a different example. A large portion of society feels animals are meant for human use. My perception is that animals exist for their own right. Now there is a clash between perception and the perception of my perception and the perception of society. Now what? Shall I take the view? ठीक है, this is what perception is, and I let it be. However, I am trying hard to change the perception of people.
That's fine.
What is the difference between boredom? Okay, that is different question.
Yeah, that is very good. You see, when two people have different perceptions, when we get married, I had one perception, my wife had another perception about so many things, and they, in fact, today, even after 40 years, some things continue. So that's all right. She has been trying to change me, I have been trying to change her perception. Partly I have changed, partly she has changed. So that's fine. Similarly, you have a noble perception guided by the compassion for animals. Others have a different perception. So you should try your best to convince people. But if you, because of your perception, you start taking that these people who are not going to behave, be kind to animals, they are all bad, they are all despicable characters, and create aversion towards them, then you will suffer. Animals will not be benefited by that in any way. So that is the point. We should definitely try to change and try to explain our perception, our point of view to others, and be willing to listen to other point of view, and That is the impermanence of perception means that they should change. Definitely.
But it should be more with metta and
It should be done with the basic understanding of selflessness.
yeah.
Basic understanding of there is no self who has a perception of this kind, and that is also not another self which has another perception of another kind. That there are different perceptions existing and they are competing with each other, and let us see. Let us see what is the value of them. Why not?
So there is a question from Sudhakar. What is the difference between boredom and disenchantment?
You see, boredom is arising because we want enchantment actually. That is the boredom. Disenchantment means I don't want enchantment. It is my decision that the world around me is no longer enchanting to me. So I don't get bored. I see it for what it is. That is yathabhuta jnana darshana. That is the result of disenchantment. Boredom is the result of expecting some enchantment from that, expecting something from the world around. And therefore, since that is not a forthcoming, we feel bored. So we want some excitement.
Sudhakar was asking boredom from the same thing that was enchanting you earlier. You get bored of doing the same thing again and again.
You see, that again is basically if I am doing something and getting bored by doing again and again, it basically I think would be more of a search for a change. I want a different excitement now. This excitement is over. This no longer excites me. I want something else to excite me. Disenchantment means that I know and that this is giving me pleasant feelings. But it's all right. I know it's okay. I know its value. That would be, I think, a true disenchantment. Then it doesn't shake me up.
Boredom
Is a negative trait. Disenchantment is a positive
it is
trait.
suggesting that you are not satisfied and you are looking for something. So you are bored and therefore you are looking for something. I think disenchantment is not that you are looking for something. You realize the futility of this, but that doesn't mean now therefore you should look for something else.
So Sudhakar further comments that so looking for change is boredom, whereas looking at the change is disenchantment.
Good, well said. Well said. Yes. Looking at change would lead to disenchantment because then we'll understand that things are changing and therefore we should not seek pleasure in them. Seeking pleasure and experiencing pleasure. Naturally you experience pleasure, it's fine. But seeking pleasure is problematic. Because that is craving and suffering is ensured. Okay. So thank you very much.